Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Out of the Blue. Hello again, David. How are you, sir?
Hello, Mark. Yes, I've had an interesting week this week. It's been rather hectic, I have to say. I can tell we're getting towards the end of the year, and it's
They want everything done as soon as they can, please.
finished for Christmas. Yes, that's the general feeling I'm getting. So yeah, it's been a little bit hectic. So apologies for my bedraggled look, but yeah, I've not had time for much else this week.
Well, no problem. This week, David, we are chatting about quite an interesting topic, really. This is a conversation and a debate that we have really quite regularly with academy trusts. So today we're looking into websites for individual schools within an academy trust and the question around how similar or how different they should be. The arguments sort of for and against that. And there are different people within the trust and within schools that will have different opinions on that. So that's kind of what we're gonna cover. As ever, before we get into that, just to cover some of the housekeeping things, and for those of you that haven't seen us before, make sure you jump onto our social media channels. There's loads of information, loads of conversation about everything to do with school marketing, lots of hints and tips. You can catch us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can also catch our brand identity masterclass. So if you visit www.blueappleeducation.com, have I got that right? No.
You have? Well done, well remembered. I was just waiting then to see if you remembered.
Totally second guess myself there. Blueappleeducation.com. Then you'll see information about our masterclass, and they are the training courses that I run every month that are a really good introduction to anybody that's trying to get a handle on their marketing and the communications within their own school. Next one's running Tuesday, December the 7th at 1 o'clock, runs for a couple of hours. It's online. So jump on the website, you'll find lots more information and information about how you can sign up for that. And watch this space, because in the next few weeks, we will be chatting to you about some developments around the masterclass and some further masterclasses that we've got in development at the moment. That's exciting.
It is. It is very exciting.
Lastly, there's loads of useful information also on our website. If you go to our blog pages, where you'll find lots and lots of articles, advice, hints and tips, again, about everything to do with marketing. So we've covered all bases, really. We're trying to converse with you in every possible way.
Yes, we are. We are.
So, David, this question that we're looking at today, so we're looking at the schools within an academy trust and just how similar or different their websites should be. And the reason this question comes up is, obviously, we've chatted a lot about academy growth and how academies are developing. So if you create a multi-academy trust from scratch and then you grow that academy trust, it's fairly easy to have control over the websites that are contained and the schools in the trust. It doesn't really happen like that, and very often academy trusts will merge with other academy trusts. They'll bring in schools to join the trust, and so they've often inherited a number of different website systems. I've spoken to multi-academy trusts that have got actually 7 different suppliers of websites. And the management of that can be an absolute nightmare. And there are obviously sort of economies of scale that are being missed. And the conversation really stems from that, but there's lots of depth to it. And there's lots of reasons why people have different opinions. So I thought we could look at, firstly, what the benefits of everyone having a similar system or bringing a single system into a trust are. Why would you do that? What's the benefit of doing it? But then perhaps what are the arguments that you get against that? Why are people might not like that, or what fears that very often people within the individual schools will have if you were going to adopt that sort of thing. So if we look at those benefits, what do you think are the main benefits of bringing a single system into an academy trust?
I think the one that I come across most when I'm talking about the websites is having a single system where, no matter who is using it, whichever school, trust or school, it's the same platform for them to be, to become familiar with it. And then actually it then makes it easier to train staff internally on using the systems. They don't have to, know 7 different systems. There's one system. It's the same across all the schools. So if if one school needs a bit of support or a bit of training, whoever's had training in one school or within the trust can then deliver training internally and upskill their staff really within the group on using that system.
And it's easy to centralize staff. As trusts are developing those centralized, certainly marketing, communication staff, they've only got to learn one system and then can jump onto each of the school websites. That's got to be easy.
There is that. Surprisingly, not as many trusts, I think, take that up because obviously schools like to do their own updates and probably feel like they are losing a little bit of control of their own school website if the trust is managing the content on there. But actually, I think it's a really good use of resource. And if there is a good marketing strategy and plan in place, then actually the schools will have had input into that strategy for their particular school, and then can help prepare the planning of their content going on the site. So if somebody was to do that then centrally, they have each school's strategy and plan in place, and they can do those updates. Just so you don't need, a person in each school then having to make those content updates.
Do you know when I've seen it work best is where you've actually got kind of both of those happening, to be honest. It sits between those two options in that you've got centralized staff and there is certain content that they will look after. There's a huge benefit to that because obviously if you're talking about policies and procedures and making sure that they're up to date, all the stuff Ofsted basically are going to on the website, and some of that has changed recently. But then in terms of the flavoursome content, the nice bits, what's happening in the classrooms, then obviously you can have staff in the school that is updating that content. A mix between the two I've seen work really well. But a really good website system can actually allow you to disseminate that information centrally and not have 17 people having to update something on a website. And just having that centralized has got to be a good use of resource and time, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it makes sense to me to do that and have it so that there's at least a familiarity between all the websites there so that somebody can come in and update them. Yeah, absolutely.
So lots of benefits to the back end and the content management system.
Yeah.
I think there are also some benefits to looking at sort of the front end and the design and what that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's definitely cost savings in that respect, aren't they? In terms of creating a system theme where perhaps there's a look or a style developed for those schools, any school within a particular trust. That there's you're not redesigning a new website from scratch every time. That there's maybe a standard look and feel to it, but actually, it's individual to the school, but it has a trust theme running through there, or a how can I call it, a framework, if you like, for that particular design, so that that they are similar in terms of the styling, but they're not all completely unique, which then I think it makes it a little bit more complicated to keep up to date.
Yeah, and I think that touches on some of the issues you might start hearing from schools. So we've got that, the development of almost that corporate feel to the websites within a trust. I like to describe that more as each of the schools looking like they belong to the trust. And that's something that's really, really important as part of the trust brand, is that you arrive onto one of your school websites and you know that is part of your trust. It has a certain layout and feel to it. The fear you get, the flip side of that coin, is then your your head teachers, your SLT within those individual schools feeling like, well, we don't want to look like a corporate entity,
losing our identity, and
which we've talked a lot about actually. We've talked about how you can blend a trust identity and a school identity, and it's something that we believe in wholeheartedly, that you've got to maintain that. That's what parents are buying into with the school after all. So I think it's important to be able to explain that within the environment of the trust, which is that, well, look, this is a system that gives us a feel of being part of the same family. It allows us to develop constant and regular calls to action, and those admissions processes that we're really encouraging trusts to develop are so much easier when you've got those similar calls to action, similar forms that are all going to be filled in. They're all going to look the same on the website, and that leaves you free then for the real front end bit, the look, the feel, the photography, the key messaging, the colors that are used. That can all be different for each school, and that looks after that brand of the school and the character and the nature, and you get the best of both worlds then, I think.
Yeah, it's true. And I think you can develop a good admissions process then, across the board, so that everybody's following the same process. It is familiar to them. It might look slightly different, in terms of the branding over the top of it, but actually the structure that's there is the same process for each. And as you say, the calls to action, they're all there. And you, especially when you bring a new school on board, you can take that model then and apply it to the new school, so that it's very quickly onboarded into the trust, and using a familiar system that works, that's set up, and there's a brand style there that everybody's familiar with. So
and I suppose that fits in with everything else that the trust will be setting up for those centralized services, etc. You just bring it into that same whole scale system, don't you, really? So we're confident as a company, when we're dealing with trusts and with individual schools, that we can supply something that does all of those things for the trust and gives them that confidence, but will retain that individual character for the schools. And also, from our point of view, it lends itself to that fundamental thing that we've talked about, what we fundamentally believe in when we're working with schools. And the second one of those is always being as cost effective as we can, making sure that the investment that the school makes is as cost effective as it can be, and will actually help them achieve their goals and their aims. So designing one website and then reskinning it for each school is quicker, easier, and more cost effective. It won't, our quotation to you would be less if we did that.
Yes, exactly.
But also from a support point of view, you're only looking at support from a single company, and you can bundle your support packages together, and you'll make really substantial cost savings than paying support to lots of different companies, because you can buy a whole bundle of support that schools can then access as and when they need it. And one school that might not need any support really doesn't use any of that, and the school that needs a lot over a period of time, the new school that's joined the trust, might use a few more hours because they're just coming on board. It just seems to make sense and work, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That central pot of hours, if you like, is just distributed as it's needed, because there are going to be some schools that have, more resource internally, greater understanding of it, perhaps, or want to get on and do it. And then there are others that, the person's left and not been trained up yet, or they just need a little bit more hand-holding, as you say, to start with, perhaps. And then the hours can be used there. So that having that support package across the group, rather than for every individual school, it can be a huge cost saving for them.
So, sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say the last sort of issue that tends to come to the fore when we discuss this with trusts is, okay, but we've got all of these schools, they're all on a different contract, they all mature at a different time. we can't just say, right, everyone's going to have a new website. We're going to launch them all in September. For one, that's an absolute logistical nightmare for the trust to deal with. So it's important to recognize that actually the way that you can work that is to basically put some timescale and some development timescales in place. So firstly, a review of the schools, where they all sit in terms of the contracts that they're on. Now, you may well, if you're talking to us, we'd help you do that, but you may well be talking to a supplier that you've already got websites from, and it would work the same for that, really. You've got to look at, okay, well, this is the system we want to put in place. We're going to get that website created and designed, and we always take people through a process and are very mindful of making sure that we know that the other things, we're designing it for this school, but there are other things that schools are going to need this website to do. Adding those will be very, very simple. And then you can start planning as to what that churn is going to look like and when each of the schools would get a new website. Much easier to manage. It's not such a headache from a logistical point of view from the trust. And then over time, you're going to get everybody centralized. So it's important to note you can't really do this overnight and as a what, well, you could, but it's probably better to sit and plan it out, or have the supplier you're talking to. What we would do is to plan that out for you. We'd talk to each of the schools, we'd map it out for you, and then it'd be ready to go.
And then there's a roadmap or a rollout of those sites over a period of time, so everybody's clear when they need to do their part and get involved in the process.
Yeah. What's really important, I think, so if you're out there listening to us talk like this and you're thinking of chatting to a website supplier, is we believe that it's really important that you build in some reviews of those sites. So you really want to be talking to the supplier 3 months after the website's launched, 6 months, 12 months, 2 years. Those review points are really important because you will have had feedback. You will have found things that need altering and changing. And by keeping the website up to date and dynamic and organic rather, you're unlikely to need to change it in 2 or 3 years' time because it's keeping pace with the school. And that's really important as well.
Exactly. And I think especially with the technology, the speed that it changes, especially on websites, that having those reviews at regular periods, they allow you to see what's available, what's possible. The supplier and what we would do is have that review with you. We'd look at how it's looking. I've got a notification. Could you hear that? And how it's looking, how it's working for you at any particular time. And then, we would prepare recommendations, updates based on that review meeting, and then implement those changes. And I think that's really key to making sure that the website doesn't look out of date, that doesn't start malfunctioning and things not working properly, because it's constantly being reviewed and looked after, just like a car.
Oh, there you go. Servicing. That's what we're talking about.
Exactly. It is like a car, isn't it? You buy a car and at first it all works perfectly well. And
you're but that's another story.
You don't expect to do anything, to start with. But after a period of time, you do have to, put some more windscreen washer in, and you do have to change the oil and the tires and get it serviced. It's the same with anything that's constantly moving, constantly evolving. You have to keep on top of it. You can't just expect it to continue working for 5 years with no input from the professionals. I told you we'd get onto cars today, didn't I?
David, thank you so much for this afternoon. I hope everybody watching has got some hints and tips there. It's pretty obvious the way we think trust should work with regards to how they develop a website system. Anybody out there that is in a trust and wants to discuss this a little bit further, or you want some advice or to be shown how you can start to adopt this, then by all means, please do get in touch. We'd love to have a chat with you and show you how it can work. David, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. I'm going to get back to it now.
Yeah. We'll see everyone again next week for another episode. Goodbye.
Thanks very much. Bye.
Thank you for watching Out of the Blue, and I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe and leave a comment below, and please ring the bell for notifications. I hope I all see you again soon. Bye!